Wells Fargo is accused of interviewing black and female candidates for positions that were already filled in an effort to satisfy a diversity policy.
Joe Bruno, a former executive in the wealth management division, told the New York Times employees were instructed to interview, quote, diverse candidates after the recipient of the job had already been identified.
He is one of 7 current and former Wells Fargo employees who say they were instructed by their direct supervisor or HR to conduct the fake interviews. 5 others say they were aware of the practice or helped arrange it. A spokesperson for Wells Fargo tells CBS they cannot corroborate the claims. In 2020, the bank's CEO, Charles Scharf, made headlines after he claimed the bank had trouble reaching diversity goals because there were not enough qualified minority candidates. The company also paid nearly $8 million to settle a claim by the Department of Labor that it had discriminated against more than 30,000 black job applicants. In 2017, the banking giant settled a class action lawsuit with 320 of its black financial advisors who sued the company for racial discrimination. The employees claimed they were corralled into poor neighborhoods and kept away from opportunities to advance. Wells Fargo paid nearly $36 million.
All right, joining us now to get into all of this is William M. Rodgers III. William is the vice president and director of the Institute for Economic Equity at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Mr. Rodgers, thank you very much for being here. There's a lot, as I said, to get into here. I am curious, just right off the top, what you make of the accusations in the Times, reminiscent of the lawsuit that the NFL brought against, or that a coach brought against the NFL, alleging that he, a coach of color, was being interviewed only for the window dressing, not because he was actually a candidate for the job. So just big picture, your reaction, sir.
Yes, thanks for having me. And before I just dive into my responses or thoughts, I do need to say that my comments here are solely my views, and they don't represent policy or views of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, nor do they represent the views or policies of the broader system of the Federal Reserve banks. It's troubling. It's very, very troubling. But I do want to thank you for asking me to speak more broadly about this issue, because we don't want to be, it sounds like there still is some disagreement about the veracity and the truth of and the scope of these allegations. So we really need to see what the investigations reveal. But if this is true, it's very problematic. And at the end of the day, it's going to hurt the companies that engage in this process, because it is really eroding the trust in the belief that the process of applying for a job with a particular company is working. And especially now in this new era or new period, because of the really responses to the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, Michael Ferguson, where there's this belief that there's a bigger, stronger commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so if you're not doing that, you're going to be suffering, possibly from getting good talent, which allows your company to make better decisions, but also from a standpoint of consumers. Consumers are very savvy these days in terms of where they choose to place their dollars.
Well, Bill, to your point, I want to dive into those numbers a little bit more, because a study done by Citigroup claims that since 2000, the U.S. economy lost at least $16 trillion because of discrimination. So analysts say that closing the wage gap alone could have added $2.7 trillion in income, which would have been available for consumption or investment. So with all of that in mind, why do you think the government hasn't put more effort into addressing this issue?
Well, I have to be careful here again. As at the Fed, we try to be that neutral third party, particular convener of conversations. And so I'm not in a position to be telling or saying what the government should be doing. but the evidence that you cite is evidence, along with some work that I have colleagues at the San Francisco Federal Reserve who have not only showed the benefits of narrowing racial gaps, but also narrowing gender pay gaps, right? That till today, women on average are earning 25 to 30% less than men, and it's even lower for Black women. So it is important. And I also myself and some of my staff, we've been building estimates of what some people call Black buying power, or even Latino buying power, and we're getting similar kinds of conclusions, qualitative conclusions that, if you were to narrow inequality, not even just because of discrimination, but other factors, difference in education, differences where businesses are located, and so Blacks or other minorities have difficulty getting to those jobs, you're talking about sizable gains to the economy and also sizable gains to potential companies. Yeah. So the tide has changed, and there's been a great deal of good work by a number of companies, and more needs to be done, and celebrate the good work that's being done to address this. But the bottom line is, as you said, when you narrow these differences, you reduce ending discrimination, you raise productivity in the workplace. It's been ample studies have been shown, right, that if you are doing good, that bringing good teams together, diverse teams together, they do a better job of getting good outcomes, which helps the corporate bottom line.
So these good outcomes, the good work, the question then becomes, how do you get the good outcomes to continue? In other words, how do you get hiring managers, the people who are on the front lines, to make that decision to expand the workforce? And it's interesting, there's research that's really troubling where, you'll have a resume that will be identical to another resume, but if you change the name in a way that signals something or appears to in the mind of the person who reads it, they get fewer callbacks. And that's something that's not easy to fix, it seems to me, because it has to do with a kind of internalized or acculturated way of viewing the world.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you cited some of that research. It is really just daunting when you see that, and it's not just on race; it's on people with disabilities, and other groups. And one of the projects I can tell you that I have been a part of, that I was doing before I came to the Federal Reserve, and that is that the National Academies of Medicine, Engineering, and Sciences were commissioned by the EEOC to do a study of some data has been collected, and they want to do it more frequently, and that's on collecting wage data. So the EEOC is your federal agency that is tasked with addressing issues of discrimination in the workplace. And right now, they only collect information on employment from large employers, but the potential was to connect also wage information, which could address not only the sort of the search discrimination that you've talked about, but also the pay discrepancy that could exist partly due to discrimination. So that's one area. But I think the other big area where people have to demand change. But I think the other, as an economist, the other way this works too is those companies who are not practicing the diversity, equity, and inclusion, where it's been shown that stuff does matter and can help the corporate bottom line, that if they don't do so, it's going to hurt their bottom line.
And that's true, but it's that subtle stuff that can be the hardest to identify and root out. Well,
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Bill, thank you very much. You shed a lot of light on this, even as you had to do some careful work there, toggling between your personal opinions and your day job.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you doing that for us. Because it's an important subject.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Appreciate it.